Leviticus 26, starting with verse 1. Ye shall make you no idols, nor graven image. Neither rear you up a standing image, neither set ye up any image of stone in your land to bow down unto it, for I am the Lord your God. Right? So that right there crushes Islam. All right? Because they even say, like Muslims will say, that you're not a real Muslim unless you made your pilgrimage to Mecca. Why? Because the pilgrimage to Mecca, you go and you bow down and worship a stone in the land of Mecca. All right, that's literally what the Hajj is in Islam. All right, it's garbage. It goes against everything that the Bible stands for. All right, but it's important to know that this is how you receive your blessing. You don't turn to other gods. You just stick to the Most High. That's the most important thing. All right, you stick to what the Most High says in the Bible. All right, that's how you receive the blessings of the law. Verse 2, ye shall keep my Sabbaths, meaning his holy days, and reverence my sanctuary. I am the Lord. All right. So in past times, that would have been the tabernacle, right? Would have been the sanctuary of the Most High. Later, during the days of Solomon, it would have been the temple, right? But here in these days, it's our own bodies. All right, it's our own bodies here in the New Testament, here in the New Covenant. Our own bodies are the sanctuary of the Lord. All right, in 1 Corinthians 3, in verse 16, it says, know ye not that ye are the temple of God, and that the Spirit of God dwelleth in you? If any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are, right? So that shows that, hey, look, don't, right? So don't defile the temple. So like, don't smoke. You know that causes cancer. Like, watch what you eat, right? The Most High told us specifically, like in the dietary law, what to eat and what not to eat, right? So take care of yourself, right? So this shows like, don't do anything that damages your system like drugs do, you know what I mean? So like taking care of the sanctuary of God, right? Reverencing the sanctuary, as I said in Leviticus 26, not defiling the temple, right? And you know what would go on in the sanctuary is they would offer up sacrifices, all right? The priest would offer up sacrifices in the temple and the tabernacle and the sanctuary, right? Romans 12 and 1, and you know, I read this a lot on here, or at least I reference it a lot on here, especially when we're talking about the law of Moses and sacrifices. So Romans 12, starting with 1, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service, right? So understanding in Leviticus 26 and 2, right, reverencing the sanctuary, how we apply that in the new covenant is that you do not defile your body, which is the temple of God. I just mentioned it in the ways as in like foreign substances, but fornication, whenever you read 1 Corinthians 6, that's another way of defiling your temple. All right. Just going around and being a hoe, being a man hoe, you know what I mean? Being a player, being a pimp, whatever you want to call it. All right. That's defiling the temple of God. That is not reverencing the sanctuary. All right. Because I referenced 1 Corinthians 6. Let me just get that so y'all know I'm not just making stuff up. All right. 1 Corinthians 6 and I think it's 18. No, starting with 15. No, I'll start with 18. I'll start with 18 because it gets to the point. Flee fornication. Every sin that a man doeth is without the body, but he that committeth fornication sinneth against his own body, right? So every sin that a man doeth is without the body, right? Like, so stealing, for example, the scriptures say thou shalt not steal. That's outside your body, right? In fact, it's to benefit your body in most cases, right? You're going to steal to get money to do something for yourself, right? So things like that. That's what it's talking about when it says every sin that a man doeth is without the body. Like murder, for example, that's outside your body. You're harming someone else's body, in fact, right? But fornication is against your own body, all right? What? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, which ye have of God, and ye are not your own? You see that right there? So, like it said, offer your body as a reasonable, or as a sacrifice, which is your reasonable service. All right? So, the Holy Ghost is supposed to abide in you, and it can't abide in an unclean sanctuary. All right? For ye are bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. You see that right there? Because they belong to him. All right? So reverence my sanctuary. I am the Lord. All right, verse 3. This is kind of the whole point of the blessings of the law. All right? The whole point of this lesson, I should say. If you walk in my statutes and keep my commandments and do them, then I will give you rain in due season, and the land shall yield her increase, and the trees of the field shall yield their fruit. You see that right there? So he said, I'm going to bless your land. All right? If you if you keep my commandments and do them, I will bless your land. Right? So you think about back then, they didn't have the grocery store to go to like we do today. Everything wasn't processed food, made in a lab, made in a factory. The people made their own food. All right. They didn't need to go get a job somewhere so that they could, pay bills and buy things. Right. They grew their own food. All right. And God said, look, I will bless you. I will give you that ability to grow your own food if you keep my commandments. All right. And your threshing shall reach into the vintage, and the vintage shall reach into the sowing time. Saying, throughout the year, you're going to have different cycles of crops, right? You're going to grow at different times throughout the year. Like early spring, you're going to grow some things, and later in the summer, you're going to grow some things, right? Because plants, they don't take a whole year to grow, right? So he said, look, I'm gonna make it so where the food that you grow initially, it's gonna reach until the food that you grow in the latter season, and then that food that is grown in the latter season, when you harvest it, it's gonna last all the way back around to the next year, right? So he said, look, I'm gonna make sure that you never lack anything. I'm gonna make sure that you never go hungry. That's what he's saying here. All right. And ye shall eat your bread to the full, right? You're going to be full, and dwell in your land safely, and nobody's going to be able to come and take it away from you. All right. So, from here, let's go to Deuteronomy 28:1, because Deuteronomy 28:1 sums up all of these in a sense, but it also kind of specifies these as well. All right. So, Deuteronomy 28 and verse 1. And it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe and to do all his commandments, which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth. Right? So he said, look, if you do what I told you to do, if you do my commandments, then I will bless you above all the other nations, right? He's speaking to the Israelites here. He said, I'm going to bless you above all the other nations. All right. Now the context of Leviticus 26, right? So it's continuing the context of Leviticus 25. It says, and the Lord spake unto Moses in Mount Sinai, saying, speak unto the children of Israel. All right. So that's who Leviticus 26 is talking to, just so you know. He's talking to the Israelites. Deuteronomy 1:1, because all of Deuteronomy is one speech, the last speech that Moses gave. In Deuteronomy 1:1, it also says, these be the words which Moses spake unto all Israel on this side Jordan in the wilderness. All right, so Deuteronomy 28, he's speaking to the Israelites. So he's saying, look, you're my chosen people, and if you keep my commandments, I will bless you above all the nations of the earth. All right? Just want to get Deuteronomy 7 and 6 real quick, because we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, I believe. But Deuteronomy 7 and starting with verse 6. For you are a holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God hath chosen thee, chosen you, to be a special people unto himself, chose the Israelites to be special above all people that are upon the face of the earth, right? God chose the Israelites to make a covenant with them and to prefer them above others. All right. He didn't give this covenant to everyone. He gave it to the Israelites. Verse 7. The Lord did not set his love upon you, nor choose you, because ye were more in number than any people, right? So he didn't choose the Israelites because they were the most populous, for ye were the fewest of all people, right? So at the time that the Most High chose the Israelites, all the other nations had already been established yet. All the other nations had already been established, The Israelites had not even come out of Egypt yet. All right, they were populating in Egypt after, the Egyptians were already populated, the Japhethites were already populated, the Cushite Nubians were already populated, all the different Semitic peoples were already populated, right? Said, for you were the fewest of all people. Verse 8, but because the Lord loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he had sworn unto your fathers, hath the Lord brought you out with a mighty hand, and redeemed you out of the house of bondmen, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. He said right there. So understand this, verse 9. Know therefore that the Lord thy God, he is God, the faithful God, which keep covenant and mercy with them that love him and keep his commandments to 1,000 generations. All right, so God chose the Israelites specifically because of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, right? They were faithful. Our forefathers were faithful to the Most High, so he is faithful with them in their seed. He said, I'm faithful to them to 1,000 generations. I don't even know if 1,000 generations have actually even happened yet. Out of all the generations of men, I'm not even sure 1,000 generations have happened. All right. But he said, so that's a lot. That's a long time. All right. He said, I keep covenant. I keep agreements that I make. I made an agreement with them that I would bless their seed. So that's why I'm choosing you, the Israelites. All right. The people that have been scattered throughout the earth in slavery and forced migrations, deportations, if you will, and what else? And all the curses that we'll read about next week and the weeks following. All right. So Deuteronomy 14, and I believe it's verse 2. Verse 2. It says, for thou art an holy people unto the Lord thy God, and the Lord had chosen thee to be a peculiar people unto himself above all the nations that are upon the earth. You see that right there? So he said, look, I chose you to be a holy people, a peculiar people, a different people, a strange people, all right, above all the nations, right? So they're going to look at you and say, those are very interesting and strange and odd laws that you keep, all right? So from there, because people think it changed in the New Testament. It didn't change. It didn't change at all. In 1 Peter 2, he says the same thing. He says the same exact thing. 1 Peter 2, starting with verse 9, it says, but you are a chosen generation, right? He's talking specifically about Christ's generation, all right? And when you read in like Matthew 24 and Mark 13, they're the same thing. But when you read in those chapters, Christ also likened this generation, the generation of his return, to his generation which he lived. All right. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. So notice Peter, he didn't say, everybody, right? He didn't say that everybody's holy. Everybody has the chance to be holy. He didn't say that. He said, you are an, meaning one, holy nation. A, meaning one, peculiar people. That ye should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light, right? So the fact that you have even heard the word like this, the fact that you have even heard the truth about the Israelites, all right, that means God has called you into this covenant, all right, which in time past were not a people, right? Because they say that, well, black people and Latinos and American Indians and, dispersed, y'all not even one people. What are y'all talking about? He said, hey, which in time past were not a people, but are now the people of God, which had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy. And he's actually quoting Hosea when he's talking about that. Hosea chapter 1 and 2 talks about calling the Israelites back to the covenant and joining ourselves together all 12 tribes together under one head. And that one head is Jesus Christ, our King. All right? So it says the same thing all throughout the Bible. But back to Deuteronomy 28 and verse 2. It says, and all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. So notice that in Leviticus 26 and in Deuteronomy 28, it says the way you get blessed, it says, in Leviticus 26, it says, keep my Sabbaths, right? First of all, he starts off by saying, don't worship idols. Hey, keep my Sabbaths, reverence my sanctuary, walk in my statutes, keep my commandments, and do them. Deuteronomy 28, it says to observe, to do all his commandments. All right? And then it says the blessings will come. It didn't say you get blessed by doing whatever you want to do. It didn't say you get blessed by, I do this and that, but I ain't doing all. That's not what it said. It said to do all the commandments. That's how you get blessed. Again, throughout the whole Bible, it says the same exact thing. It don't change. God don't change. All right? In Psalms chapter 1, the first Psalm, he says, blessed is the man that walk not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stand in the way of sinners, nor sit in the seat of the scornful. Right? So blessed is the man who's not out here with the sinners. Verse 2, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night, right? So blessed is the man who meditates in the law day and night, who delights in the laws of God. That's the blessed man, all right? Psalms 119 also says something similar. Psalms 119, I forget which verse it is. Okay, yeah, start with 1. It says, blessed are the undefiled in the way, who walk in the law of the Lord, right? So blessed are the people who walk in God's laws. All right, blessed are they that keep his testimonies and that seek him with the whole heart, right? So all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, right? You're not double-minded. You're not, and one minute you're sitting here talking about how you should be doing what God said to do, and the next minute you doing your own thing, right? Next minute you fornicating or you doing drugs or whatever, all right? With your whole heart, your whole mind. Verse 3, they also do no iniquity. They walk in his ways, right? So blessed are they who do no iniquity and that walk in his ways, all right? In the New Testament, people think it changed in the New Testament. Hey, we ain't got to do none of that. We ain't got to do none of the laws. We ain't got to do what it says. That's not what the scriptures say at all. All right. In James 1, I believe it's verse 22. But I'm looking for blessed. Blessed. Where is it at? Okay, so starting with 22. I'll start with 22, read on down through 25. But be ye doers of the word and not hearers only, deceiving your own selves, right? So if you hear the word but you don't do it, right? So if you hear these scriptures that I'm bringing out but you don't do what the word says, but you don't apply the laws to your life, all right? You're just deceiving yourself. For if any be a hearer of the word, and not a doer, he is like unto a man beholding his face in a natural glass. For he behold himself and go his way, and straightway forget what manner of man he was. Meaning you don't even recognize your own self. All right? You'll lose yourself in the process. If you just hear it, and it's a performance, and it's like you're doing it performatively, right? Or you just put it on because, hey, I'll listen to the word, but, I'm still going to do my own thing. Then you don't even know what type of person you are. You won't even recognize yourself. All right? Verse 25, but whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty and continue therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work. What works? The perfect law of liberty. If you work the law of liberty, this man shall be blessed in his deed. You see that right there? So it's saying the same thing throughout the whole scripture. All right? Throughout the whole Bible. It doesn't matter if it's Old Testament, New Testament. All the prophets and the apostles spoke the same thing. All right? They're all being led by the same Spirit, the Spirit of the Lord, all right, the Holy Ghost. So back to Deuteronomy 28. Actually, we'll go back to Leviticus 26, and we'll read down through these blessings, and then we'll go back to Deuteronomy 28, read through those blessings, okay? All right, so we read about how he would bless our crops. Verse 6. And it said, and dwell in your land safely, right? Verse 6. And I will give peace in the land, and ye shall lie down, and none shall make you afraid. You see that right there? So you'll be able to sleep peacefully. You'll be able to be comfortable, right? And none shall make you afraid. And I will rid evil beasts out of the land, neither shall the sword go through your land, right? So he said you're not going to be attacked by animals, by wild animals, and you're not going to be attacked by any enemies, all right? And ye shall chase your enemies, and they shall fall before you by the sword. And when you do go to war, all right, because there's no land or nation of people who never went to war, all right? That just is how the world works. He said, and when you do go to war, you're going to chase your enemies. They're going to be afraid of you. You're not going to be afraid of them. They're going to be afraid of you. And 5 of you shall chase 100, and 100 of you shall put 10,000 to flight. He said, look, you're not even going to need numbers. Hey, you just need a select few, and I will fight for you. I will do the rest. All right? And your enemies shall fall before you by the sword, right? So you're going to win battles. You're never going to lose the battles, all right? For I will have respect unto you and make you fruitful and multiply you and establish my covenant with you, right? So you're just going to populate more and more, right? Your children are going to be blessed. Their children are going to be blessed, right? And my covenant will just be further established with you and with your generations, right? And ye shall eat the old store. Ye shall eat old store and bring forth the old because of the new, right? So he said, look, I'm going to bless your agriculture. I'm going to bless your crops so much, your produce so much that you're not even going to have room to store it all. And you're going to have to get rid of the old stuff that you stored by eating it just so you can make room for the new stuff, right? You're going to have to give away food, basically. You're just going to have so much. You're going to be blessed with so much. You're just not even going to know what to do with it, all right? And I will set my tabernacle among you, and my soul shall not abhor you. And he said, I'll never hate you. All right. And I will walk among you and will be your God, and ye shall be my people. Right. So he said, look, my sanctuary is going to be with you, and I'm going to be with you. All right. I'm going to be among you, and ye shall be my people. I am the Lord your God, which brought you forth out of the land of Egypt, that ye should not be their bondmen. And I have broken the bands of your yoke and made you go upright. You see that right there? So he said, look, I'm the same one who put all them plagues on the Egyptians. All right. I'm showing you that I will fight for you. All right. And I brought you out of bondage. I brought you out of captivity. All right. So keep this in mind about I will walk among you. All right. Keep that in mind. We'll get back to that later. All right. So, and I have broken the bands of your yoke and made you go upright. All right. All that is connected. We'll get back to that later. Deuteronomy 28, we'll read these blessings because they really go hand in hand. They're really saying the same thing. Verse 3, right? Because we read verse 2, and all these blessings shall come on thee and overtake thee if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. You won't be able to run away from the blessings, right? They're just going to follow you. Blessed shalt thou be in the city, and blessed shalt thou be in the field, meaning those of you who live in urban environments, those of you who live within the city, you're going to be blessed in the city. And those of you who live in rural environments, who have the crops, you're going to be blessed as well, right? These blessings are going to follow you everywhere you go, all right? Blessed shall be the fruit of thy body, right? Your children and the fruit of thy ground, your crops and the fruit of thy cattle, your livestock, the increase of thy kind and the flocks of thy sheep. Blessed shall be thy basket and thy store, right? So your basket is, what you have on you, right? Like, for example, picking it up out of the field, putting it in the basket, right? The store being what you have in storage, all right? Just so you can understand. So that would, in a smaller sense, that would be like a cupboard. In a larger sense, that would be like a barn, right? In modern sense, that would be like bank accounts and whatnot. But, we're talking about ancient times here. Blessed shalt thou be when thou comest in, and blessed shalt thou be when thou goest out. All right, so when you come into the city, go out of the city, come into the battle, go out of the battle. All right. Or rather, come into the city and go out to war. Excuse me. Verse 7, the Lord shall cause thine enemies that rise up against thee to be smitten before thy face. They shall come out against thee one way and flee before thee 7 ways. You see that right there? So, they're coming in all organized. They're coming in all structured. They think they're about to do something, and then they flee terrified of you. All right, in all these different directions, in all the different ways. All right. The Lord shall command the blessing upon thee in thy storehouses, right? That would be like a barn. And in all that thou settest thy hand unto, right? So that's anything that you pick up, any work that you get into, any field that you go into as far as like job or labor is concerned, any venture, any investment, right? And he shall bless thee in the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee, right? So you're going to stay in the land, you're going to prosper. The Lord shall establish thee a holy people unto himself, as he hath sworn unto thee, if thou shalt keep the commandments of the Lord thy God and walk in his ways, right? So that's what we read in Deuteronomy 7, all right? And all people of the earth shall see that thou art called by the name of the Lord, and they shall be afraid of thee. And see, that's what we was reading in Leviticus 26, about none shall make thee afraid, right? It's going to be the opposite. And the Lord shall make thee plenteous in goods, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy ground, in the land which the Lord sware unto thy fathers to give thee. Right? You're going to have many possessions. All right? That's plenteous in goods. The Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven to give the rain unto thy land in his season, and to bless all the work of thy hand, and thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow. So, verse 12, there's a lot in verse 12. All right? So the Lord shall open unto thee his good treasure, the heaven to give the rain unto thy land in his season. All right, so how rain is supposed to be, it's not supposed to be like raining all the time. It's not supposed to be raining, like in the middle of winter. All right, it's not supposed to be, that's not when it's supposed to be raining. It's supposed to be raining like early spring into the early summer, right? That would be what's known in the scripture as the former rain. And then it's supposed to rain like late summer. All right, a little bit in late summer. That's what's known as the latter rain. All right, so that you can have two different crop yields, basically, like what we was talking about in Leviticus 26, right? The threshing into the vintage. All right. That's how rain is supposed to work. But, with the world being out of course, the rain is just sporadic. The storms are just sporadic. The weather patterns in the earth, the climate change is sporadic throughout the earth. All right. That's not how it's supposed to be. All right. And to bless all the work of thy hand, thou shalt lend unto many nations, and thou shalt not borrow, meaning you will be the one owning the banks. You will be the one giving the loans. All right? He said this to the Israelites. That's how it's supposed to be. All right? And this whole fiat currency system that we got now, that's not how it's supposed to be. That's what leads to inflation. Inflation leads to, poverty. All right? That's not how it's supposed to be. All right? And the Lord shall make thee the head and not the tail, right? You're going to be the head of society. You're going to be the leaders in society. You're going to be the dominant culture in society. And thou shalt be above only, and thou shalt not be beneath. All right? You're going to be the ruling class, so to speak. If that thou hearken unto the commandments of the Lord thy God, which I command thee this day, to observe and to do them, and thou shalt not go aside from any of the words which I command thee this day, to the right hand or to the left, or to go after other gods to serve them, right? So in Leviticus 26, it started off by saying don't serve other gods when it comes to the blessings. And in Deuteronomy 28, at the end of the blessings, it said don't serve other gods, right? So, these are the blessings that the Lord has promised us. And he said, you must keep the commandments to receive these blessings. And this is what will happen if we keep the commandments, all right? This has happened only like a couple times. And this is why we're only spending 1 week on the blessings, because this has only happened like twice in all of history, all right? The Israelites as a whole keeping the commandments and receiving the blessings, all right? And in the book of Joshua, that's when it happened initially, right after Moses gave us the law, right? Joshua was a good heir to the leadership of the people, right? A good successor to Moses, all right? So in Joshua 1, I don't necessarily want to read all of this, but it's all good here in Joshua 1. But I'll start with 1 and then I'll start with verse 1 and then jump around. Joshua 1 and 1. Now after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that the Lord spake unto Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' minister, meaning his servant, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, go over this Jordan, thou and all this people, unto the land which I do give to them, even to the children of Israel. All right, verse 3. Every place that the sole of your foot shall tread upon, that have I given unto you, as I said unto Moses. From the wilderness and this Lebanon, even unto the great river, the river Euphrates, and all the land of the Hittites, and unto the great sea, toward the going down of the sun, shall be your coast. You see that right there? So he said, look, from the Euphrates over to the Mediterranean, Lebanon, down to the wilderness of Sinai, right? That he said, that's all for the Israelites. There shall not any man be able to stand before thee all the days of thy life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with thee. I will not fail thee, nor forsake thee. Be strong and of a good courage, for unto this people shalt thou divide for an inheritance the land which I swear unto their fathers to give them. Right? So God said, look, hey, lead this people. I won't fail you or forsake you. I will be with you in all things. So lead this people to go and take the land and wipe out these Canaanites. All right? Only be thou strong and very courageous, that thou may observe to do according to all the law which Moses my servant commanded thee. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that thou mayest prosper whithersoever thou goest. Right, so we did read this in Deuteronomy 28 as far as don't turn to the right hand or to the left. Like walk the straight and narrow, don't go to the right hand or to the left. So going to the right hand or to the left is like finding loopholes, right? So it's like you read a law and you're like, well, I don't know about doing that exactly because I kind of want to do this. Like that's going to the right hand or to the left. All right. Like for example, the law says don't lie, right? Like neither shalt thou lie one to another. If somebody were to like, well, technically I didn't lie, I just didn't tell the whole truth. That's going to the right hand or to the left, right? But the law even understands that. So it says, neither deal falsely, right? So you're breaking a direct law in that case. I'm just using that as an example, right? You'll prosper whithersoever you go if you, do according to all the law, right? Verse 8, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou may observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. Have not I commanded thee? Be strong and of a good courage. Be not afraid, neither be thou dismayed, for the Lord thy God is with thee whithersoever thou goest. All right. So then Joshua tells the people, commands the people, hey, this is what we're going to do. And verse 16, it says, and they answered Joshua, saying, all that thou commandest us, we will do. And whithersoever thou sendest us, we will go. According as we hearkened unto Moses in all things, so will we hearken unto thee. Only the Lord thy God be with thee, as he was with Moses. Right? So he said, so the people responded to Joshua when he said, hey, here's what we're going to do. And y'all follow me. They said, okay, we'll follow you. As long as we see that the Lord is with you, we're going to follow you. Whatever you say to do, we're going to do it. All right. Verse 18, whosoever he be that doth rebel against thy commandment and will not hearken unto thy words and all that thou command him, he shall be put to death. Only be strong and of a good courage, right? So the people said, look, we're serious about this. We're going to follow you, all right? And we see that God is with you. We see that God is dealing with you. And in chapter 3 specifically, they see that God parted the Jordan the same way they had parted the Red Sea. So that was the indication that, hey, God is with Joshua. So whoever rebels against Joshua, we're putting them to death. We're not going to play around like, our fathers did in the wilderness. We're not going to do that. We're going to follow you wholeheartedly. All right. So all praise to the Most High for that generation. And that's what they did. That generation was holy and righteous. All right. They overcame the Canaanites. Not all of them. They didn't wipe all of them out, but they were able to take the land. I believe it's Joshua 23. Maybe it's Joshua 24 when it says that God give. Okay. Yeah. So this is as it says right here. This is Joshua's charge to the leaders. I'm going to jump down to the point here. Verse 14. He says, and behold, this day I am going the way of all the earth, meaning Joshua said, look, I'm about to die. And ye know in all your hearts and in all your souls that not one thing has failed of all the good things which the Lord your God spake concerning you. All are come to pass unto you, and not one thing hath failed thereof. So Joshua said, look, you know all the blessings that God promised us in Leviticus 26 and Deuteronomy 28, you know they have come to pass. All right? Because it said at some point that he had rest for a while. Yeah, so in verse 1 it said, and it came to pass a long time after that the Lord had given rest unto all Israel from all their enemies round about, that Joshua waxed old and stricken in age, right? So this has been years and years and years since their wars, right? So they've had time to see the blessings come to pass year after year after year, all right? So Joshua said, look, y'all know that it's true what God had promised us. It came to pass, all right? Not one thing hath failed thereof. Therefore it shall come to pass that as all good things are come upon you, which the Lord your God had promised you, so shall the Lord bring upon you all evil things, until he have destroyed you from off this good land which the Lord your God hath given you. You see that right there. So that's the curses that we're talking about next week. But we see that it came to pass during the days of Joshua. All right, the blessings, they came to pass during the days of Joshua. But is it Joshua 24 when it talks about the people falling off, or is that in Judges? No, it'd be, I'll read this, but it's in Judges where it said the people fell off again. In Joshua 24 and 31, and Israel served the Lord all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders that overlived Joshua, right? So Phinehas, for example, was one of the elders who outlived Joshua, or he was the next elder, excuse me. The next generation, I should say. Maybe Eleazar. Oh, no, Eleazar was still around. So Eleazar was an elder that outlived Joshua. And which had known all the works of the Lord that he had done for Israel, right? So all that generation of elders who've seen the wonderful works of the Lord during the days of Joshua, all those days, the Israelites kept the commandments, right? And they received the blessings. But when you read Judges, is it Judges 2 or Judges 1? Where is it at? That talks about after Joshua. Yeah, so it must be Judges 2. Excuse me, yeah. So yeah, start with verse 7 in Judges 2. It says, and the people served the Lord all the days of Joshua and all the days of the elders that outlived Joshua, who had seen all the great works of the Lord that he did for Israel. All right. Jumping down to verse 10, and also all that generation were gathered unto their fathers. And there arose another generation after them, which knew not the Lord, nor yet the works which he had done for Israel. In verse 11 it says, and the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord and served Baalim. Right? So immediately, the next generation after Joshua's generation, the people fell off. Right? So we started falling under the curses. And that's what the book of Judges is about. You know, us going through the curses, then God sending a judge to deliver the people, and then, you know, the next generation after that judge dies, the people fall off immediately again, right? So we never really received the blessings after Joshua until you get to the days of like Solomon, the latter days of David and the days of Solomon. All right. So not gonna be in Second Chronicles. First Chronicles 9. Not for. Oh, excuse me. It will be in Second Chronicles. But starting with the days of David, though, it's in First Chronicles. And Second Chronicles is what I want about Solomon. Let's see. We'll start with one and jump around like we did with Joshua 1. First Chronicles 28, starting with 1. And David assembled all the princes of Israel, the princes of the tribes, and the captains of the companies that ministered to the king by course, and the captains over the thousands, and the captains over the hundreds, and the stewards over all the substance and possession of the king, and of his sons, with the officers, and with the mighty men, and with all the valiant men unto Jerusalem. Then David the king stood up upon his feet and said, Hear me, my brethren and my people. As for me, I had in my heart to build a house of rest for the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and for the footstool of our God, and had made ready for the building. But God said unto me, Thou shalt not build a house for my name, because thou hast been a man of war and hast shed blood. Right? So the Most High told David, look, you got a good thought. That's a good thought that you have, but your hands are too bloody. You're not going to build my house. Howbeit the Lord God of Israel chose me before all the house of my father to be king over Israel forever. For he had chosen Judah to be the ruler, and of the house of Judah, the house of my father, and among the sons of my father, he liked me to make me king over all Israel, right? So even unto Christ, right? Christ come from the seed of David, all right? And of all my sons, for the Lord had given me many sons, he had chosen Solomon, my son, to sit upon the throne of the kingdom of the Lord over Israel. See, a lot of y'all didn't even know that we already had the kingdom of the Lord. We already had that on earth. All right, it was over Israel, the same way that it's gonna be. All right, we already had the kingdom of the Lord on earth at one point. All right, it was like 3,000 years ago. All right. Verse 6, and he said unto me, Solomon thy son, he shall build my house and my courts, for I have chosen him to be my son, and I will be his father. Moreover, I will establish his kingdom forever, if he be constant to do my commandments and my judgments, as at this day. You see that right there? So he said, look, Solomon's kingdom I will establish forever, if he keep my commandments and my judgments. All right? So, verse 8, I'll read verse 8, and then we'll jump to Solomon's kingdom. All right. Now, therefore, in the sight of all Israel, the congregation of the Lord, and in the audience of our God, keep and seek for all the commandments of the Lord your God, that you may possess this good land and leave it for an inheritance for your children after you forever. All right. So David said, look, as long as you stay consistent in serving God and keeping his commandments, we will have the blessings of the law forever. All right. So initially with Solomon, it was all right. It was good. That didn't last though. All right. So this is prayer for wisdom. In 1 Kings 4. In 1 Kings 4. Starting with 20, and we'll jump around in this as well. It says, Judah and Israel were many, as the sand which is by the sea in multitude, eating and drinking and making merry. You see that right there. So during the days of Solomon, it was the blessings of, like what it said, blessed be the fruit of thy body, right? Amongst Judah and Israel, it was very populous, right? And everybody had food. Wasn't nobody poor by our standards today, all right? And so, because even the poor at that time, I was about to explain, even the poor at that time, they still had gold, they still had riches. And Solomon reigned over all kingdoms from the river unto the land of the Philistines and unto the border of Egypt. So just like what it said about the land, was that in 28 or Leviticus 26? That was in Leviticus 26 when it described the land. Well, Joshua 1 described the land as well. Well, it said the land in Leviticus 26, pardon me. In Joshua 1, it described the land. All right, so that's the land that Solomon had. That's the land that Solomon ruled over. That was the kingdom of the Lord on this earth. All right. And unto the border of Egypt, they brought presents and served Solomon all the days of his life. So the other nations at that time, they would bring gifts unto Solomon. All right. Bring gifts unto the king. Bring gifts unto the land. All right. So we're not going to get into those specific gifts. Verse 25 says, and Judah and Israel dwelt safely. Right. That's the blessing, that we would dwell safely. Right. Every man under his vine and under his fig tree, from Dan even to Beersheba. Dan being the northernmost city, or one of the northernmost cities, and Beersheba being one of the southernmost cities. All right. All the days of Solomon. All right. And then it talks more about what he had, his many possessions. Let's see. I do want to see verse 27. And those officers provided victual for King Solomon, and for all that came unto the king's table, every man in his month, they lacked nothing. You see that right there? The people were so blessed at that time, they lacked nothing. All right. I'm looking for the one that talks about the gold and things that were in there at that time. Maybe 1 Kings 9 talks about gold and silver that was around at that time. It says it was nothing during the days of Solomon. Let's see. Maybe it is in the Chronicles. I do get these two mixed up because they cover the same history. 2 Chronicles 8, perhaps. Might be 9. Let's see. Y'all forgive me. But the point is, the blessings at that time. Yeah, so it may be chapter 9. I'm gonna jump back up. Here we go. So 2 Chronicles 9 and 20. Yeah, so 2 Chronicles 9 and verse 20. It says, and all the drinking vessels of King Solomon were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None were of silver. It was not anything accounted of in the days of Solomon. You see that right there. So just to have everything made out of gold was nothing accounted of in the days of Solomon, right? So everything was gold. Like everything was made out of gold. There's another one that says like silver and rubies were like stones during his days. I think that's in the Kings. It might have been First Kings 3. But anyway, jump into verse 8 here in 2 Chronicles 9. It says, blessed be the Lord thy God, which delighted in thee to set thee on his throne. Right. So this is the Queen of Sheba talking to Solomon after she came up and visited and saw Jerusalem in those days. She said, blessed be God, which delighted. Blessed be your God, which put you on his throne, right? To be king for the Lord thy God, because thy God loved Israel to establish them forever. Therefore made he thee king over them to do judgment and justice. You said it right there. So he said, look, she said, look, this is unlike anything I've ever seen before. All right. God loved Israel so much to establish them forever, right? Made you a wise king over them, right? But he fell off. Started worshiping other gods, and it was all downhill from there. And we never really reached that same blessing again. But guess what? It's coming back. We're going to have it again. Because it never says that like these blessings are over. It never said, oh, these blessings are stopped. These blessings are done. It never says that. In fact, in Deuteronomy 30, it says that we can have the blessings again. All right, in Deuteronomy 30, starting with verse 1, And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, right? We'll get into the curses over the next, I don't know how long it's going to take, maybe 2, maybe 3 weeks, which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither the Lord thy God had driven thee, and shalt return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children with all thy heart and with all thy soul, right? Because Moses, who wrote the law, was a prophet. He spoke with the Lord. He saw the beginning, middle, and end of times. So he saw, hey, the Israelites are going to receive the blessings, but then they're also going to receive the curses for going off and doing what they're not supposed to do. All right? Then they're going to return. That's what he's telling the people. Then you're going to return to the Lord your God, and you're going to obey him. That then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations whither the Lord thy God hath scattered thee. You see it right there? So he said, look, if you return to God after you see that these curses have come upon you, after you see, first of all, the blessings and then the curses come upon you, then God will have compassion on you and bring you back from where you have been scattered. That's what all the prophets talk about, talking about the people being gathered back after they have been scattered. If any of thine be driven out unto the utmost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather thee, and from thence he will he fetch thee. Right? So all the dispersed in all the nations throughout the east and the west, the north and the south, he's going to gather us together again. Right? And the Lord thy God will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers. Right? So he said, even above that which not only Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, but above that which Joshua and them saw, above that which David and Solomon and their generation saw. All right? Verse 6, and the Lord thy God will circumcise thy heart and the heart of thy seed, to love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. Right? So he said he's going to circumcise your heart. He's going to make your heart holy, right? Make your heart special. He's going to take away all the evil from your heart and just leave the righteous part. All right? And the Lord thy God will put all these curses upon thine enemies and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. Right? So they're going, the people who's putting us under the curses, the people who we are subject to now, right? That would mainly be the people who run in the world right now is Esau, Ishmael, and Moab, right? They're going to get the curses put on them. And thou shalt return and obey the voice of the Lord, and do all his commandments which I command thee this day. And the Lord thy God will make thee plenteous in every work of thy hand, and in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy land for good. For the Lord will again rejoice over thee for good, as he rejoiced over thy fathers, right? So he's going to, as we read earlier, he's going to give us more blessings than our fathers. He's going to give us more blessings than Solomon, who had all gold everything, and it was nothing accounted of in those days. All right, he's going to give us more blessing than Joshua saw, where he was able to silence all the enemies. All right, he's going to give us more and more blessings than that. All right, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which are written in the book of the law, and if thou turn unto the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul. All right. So we're going to come back to Deuteronomy 30. But remember, I told y'all to keep this in mind in Leviticus 26, where it says, and I will walk among you. That's one of the blessings written in Leviticus 26, is that God would be with us. That's why in Deuteronomy 30, he said, look, I'm going to bless you more than I did in ancient times, because God never walked among the people in ancient times. All right? Not literally, only metaphorically. In Revelation 22, all right? Starting with 1. We'll start with 1. And we'll jump back to Revelation 21 as well. There's parts in that I don't want to miss. Revelation 22, starting with 1. And he showed me a pure river of water of life, clear as crystal, proceeding out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. All right, so we're coming back to Deuteronomy 30. We're not going back to Leviticus 26. Just keep this in mind, verses 12 and 13. But the water that it's making reference to, in Ephesians 5 and verse 26, this is the water that it's making reference to. Ephesians 5 and verse 26, it says, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of the water by the word. All right, so when it says a pure river of water, that's the word of life. The word of life, but also John 6 and 63. All right, just in case you were still unclear, in John 6 and verse 63, Christ himself said, it is the spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life, right? So just in case you were still unclear about, well, water could mean something else. The water of life is the word, right? The word of Christ, the word of God, right? Christ said, I could do nothing of my own self. All right. Clear as crystal. When it says clear as crystal, he's saying it's crystal clear. Quite literally, he's saying it's crystal clear. It's not 2 Corinthians. It's 1 Corinthians 13. And was it 8? No, it wouldn't be 8. No. 12? Yes, 12. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. Right? So Paul, even Paul, who was wise, above measure, he was still, and who had understanding, given directly from Christ. He still did not understand the word all the way, right? So anybody who says, hey, I understand the word, I understand the Bible 100%, nobody understands the Bible 100%. We see through a glass darkly, right? But then in the kingdom, right, the river of water of life, clear as crystal. It will be clear, right? He said, now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. Why? Because it proceeds out of the throne of God and of the Lamb. All right? In the midst of the street of the kingdom, and on either side of the river, was there the tree of life, which bare 12 manner of fruits, and yielded her fruit every month. All right? So when it says the tree of life, when the scriptures talk about the tree of life, it's not a literal tree. It's referring to a wholesome tongue. All right. It's talking about the word given. All right. Okay, here we go. So this is talking about wisdom, right? Verse 13 here in Proverbs 3, it says, happy is the man to find wisdom and the man to get understanding. Verse 18, it says, she is the tree of life to them that lay hold upon her, and happy is everyone that retain her, right? So it's talking about knowledge and wisdom, or rather wisdom and understanding in this context. In Proverbs 15, it is, where is it? Verse 4, excuse me. Proverbs 15 and 4. It says, a wholesome tongue is a tree of life, but perverseness therein is a breach in the spirit, right? So when it says, on either side of the river was the tree of life, was wholesome tongue speaking, giving wisdom and understanding, which bear 12 manner of fruits, right? 12 manner of fruits. These trees, which bear 12 manner of fruits, are the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. All right, these trees, as it, and we didn't get this far down in Psalms 1, but literally in Psalm 1, remember when we read, blessed is the man that walk not in the counsel of the ungodly, but his delight is in the law of the Lord. Verse 3, it says, he shall be like a tree. These men shall be like trees planted by the rivers of water that bring forth his fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither, and whatsoever he doeth shall prosper. You see that right there? So that's godly men that is talking about. 12 different manner of fruits according to the 12 tribes of the children of Israel, as it says in the previous chapter. All right? Yield her fruit every month, right? So the fruit, like the fruits of the Spirit, for example. And I'm kind of running out of time, so I'm kind of speeding through this. And the leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations, right? So all the nations, as it says in Isaiah 2, Let's get that real quick. I don't want to skip over that one. Like it says in Isaiah 2, this is what the kingdom's going to be like. In Isaiah 2, it tells you, starting with verse 1, the word that Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem, and it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, right? You shall be the head and not the tail. You shall be above and not beneath, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And many people shall go and say, come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. All right, and then it goes on to say, he shall judge the nations and rebuke many people, right? Those are the people who don't want to hear it, right? But you're going to have people come and wanting to receive it. But you're also going to have people who don't want to. Hey, guess what? He's going to judge them nations, and they're going to rebuke those people. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares. They're going, hey, we're going to put them in captivity. They're going to say, or rather, we're going to say, get to work. All right? And their spears into pruning hooks. All right? That would be like working in the fields, right? Pruning hooks is specifically for like trees, for fruit trees. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore, right? There's going to be peace on earth. Because all the nations who want to start wars, we're going to put them to work. We're going to put them in captivity. But the people who want to come up and learn, they're going to be healed. As it says in Revelation 22. The leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. Like what it said in Psalms 1. Their leaves shall not wither. These men, these blessed men, are going to be teaching the word of the Lord. And there shall be no more curse. Like what it said in Deuteronomy 30. There will be no more curse. We won't be under the curses anymore. But the throne of God and of the Lamb shall be in it. In what? Jerusalem. In New Jerusalem. God and the Lamb shall be there. Remember what it said in Leviticus 26? I will be among you. I will walk among you. All right. That's how in Deuteronomy 30 where it says you'll be blessed above your fathers. Where is that? Let's see. Okay, and multiply thee above thy fathers, right? And jump down, where is it at? Where is it at? I know there was another one. Okay, the Lord thy God will make thee plenteous for thy body, for the Lord will again rejoice over thee for good as he rejoiced over thy fathers, right? So, thought there was one that said blessed above your fathers, but I guess it's multiply above your fathers. Yeah, he will do thee good. That's what it is. He will do thee good and multiply thee above thy fathers, right? The good that he does to us will be above what he did for our fathers, all right? And it says, and his servants shall serve him. Exactly. So the 12 tribes will serve him, right? Jacob, my servant, Israel, my elect. And, they shall see his face, and his name shall be in their foreheads, all right? And as it said, I mean, it already said there shall be no more curse, right? So I kind of wanted to get this down here in Deuteronomy 30, but I guess I can do this here in Deuteronomy 30 after the blessing and after the curses. But it really will only make sense after you hear both sides of it. But yeah, this is what it talking about here in Revelation 21. This is some context behind what Revelation 22 is talking about. And I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. So this shows you right there that when it said a new heaven and a new earth, it's just talking about everything is different. It's not saying like it's a different planet, right? Because this even says that New Jerusalem's going to come down from God out of heaven, right? At least in this vision. And I heard a great voice out of heaven saying, behold, the tabernacle of God is with men, and he will dwell with them. And they shall be his people, and God himself shall be with them and be their God. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. Right? So That's what it was talking about here in Deuteronomy 30, right? That these that we're going to receive the blessings again. All right. So jumping down to the end of Deuteronomy 30. I'll just read the part about the blessing on this. Deuteronomy 30, verse 16, "And that I command thee this day to love the Lord thy God, to walk in his ways, and to keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, that thou mayest live and multiply. And the Lord thy God shall bless thee in the land whither thou go to possess it." And I'm going to jump down again to verse 20. "That thou mayest love the Lord thy God, and that thou mayest obey his voice, and thou may cleave unto him, for he is thy life, and the length of thy days, that thou may dwell in the land which the Lord sware unto your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give them." Right? So that's the blessings of the law.